Okay, the British had gun emplacements all along the Brandywine Creek. Now, there was about 3 gun emplacements here at Chadds Ford. Now, we're on the opposite side of the river right now in Chadds Ford. We're about, I would say, from Proctor's Battery, where we were before. It's about a good 400, 500, maybe 600 yards away. Now, this in back of me, this ridge right here, is a natural ridge. The road would have been here during colonial times. The ridge here was farmland. Up on top of here, there was no trees at all. It was probably just rocky on the side, and then on top it was a plateau. Now, this plateau went about 700, 800 yards along the farmer's property. This was beautiful area for Howe and Cornwallis, or the German commanders, to place their gun emplacements. It's high up. It's high ground. Now, right here, the elevation here above the creek is about 80 to 90 feet above the creek behind me. The British Army had about 8 guns up here, from what was noted after the battle and what is written on maps. They show guns on this hill. They show it was probably around maybe 6 12-pound guns and about 2 mortars. Now, the British at this time had mortars. They had different size mortars. They used fuses in them, and they would fire these over the Brandywine, and they would explode on the American positions. Now, solid shot was used from here to destroy gun emplacements. Like I was saying before, Proctor's Battery was in a redoubt. It was buried in the ground. But what they could do still with these big 12-pound balls is fire them into the American positions and hopefully knock out some guns. Now, up here it was a little difficult. Now, an engagement here before the battle took place between Proctor's Battery and the British artillery up on top of this hill right here. They had an engagement early on in the morning, probably from around 10:30 to about 1 o'clock, at which time they just kept firing at each other. Proctor's Battery would fire, and the British would fire back at them. They did this for a long time. They were trying to knock out the guns. Now, there was 2 positions close by at Chadds Ford. One was above the John Chadd house. That was probably most likely just cannons pulled on the dirt. Now, Proctor's Battery was dug in. Washington got here on September 3rd or September 4th and gave his army time to dig those gun positions. Now, the British on top of this hill didn't have that luxury. They came here. The Americans were ready for them. They pulled their guns up on this ridge, and they had no protection except for what you see in front of me. Now, this was a natural boundary right here. This dirt here, if the American shot was off a little bit down or a little bit up, it would hit this embankment here. It was very hard to hit guns up on this ridge, and they knew it. That's why they were put here. Now, it's got 2 good defenses. It's got a natural abutment here. It's got a natural defense, so cannonballs would hit here and just sink into the dirt. Or if they were fired above, they just fly in the back and most likely just keep going and hit the farmer's field. It was very difficult to hit guns on this ridge. Now, where I'm standing, the Brandywine's about maybe 30 feet away. Basically, down further, I would say about 4 football field lengths, is a school. It's the elementary school. Now, this school also had guns. They brought guns from Britain Bridge Road off of Baltimore Pike, or Old Baltimore Pike, and brought them up to a ridge. Now, that was also high ground. They show a plateau there where they pulled guns over to the elementary school. So they had 2 lines of fire, the British did, from this position here and over at the school about 400 yards away. Now, the British artillerists were very good at their job. They knew what they were doing. And the Continental artillerists, they were good too. These guys, when they fired, they had tables, they had different leveling devices on their cannons. They could pin you from about 500 yards away, no problem. Now, up the road where we were at, McFadden Road and Old Baltimore Pike, where Maxwell's Light Infantry were defending from the British attack from coming here. There was guns up there. Proctor's battery, which is over across the Brandywine Creek here, was firing on positions almost a quarter mile to about 1.5 miles away, all the way up Baltimore Pike. Now that's kind of incredible, knowing that these cannonballs can fly that far, but they did, and they knew where they were going. And there's some engagements that took place from Proctor's battery all the way up Baltimore Pike. They were firing on the British up there. Now, after the guns would have been here, this where I'm standing right now, the Army would have amassed in this area. I'm along the banks of the Brandywine Creek. They would have amassed to my left and also to my right. They would have lined up here in ranks. They would have been on top of the hill here. Their baggage was up on top of this hill also. It was about 200 yards in back of the cannons. Now, what the British did was very interesting. This was only half of their army that was here. They brought the baggage down this road, and this road circled around and came back on Baltimore Pike. They kept bringing their baggage around and around and around. They wanted the Americans to see that this is the main army, which it wasn't. This was not the main force. The main force, it was split, and the main force went up towards Birmingham Township. But the baggage kept going around in circles, giving the impression to the Americans that this was the main attack that was going to take place in Chadds Ford. But I just want to mention that, you know, even today you can still see structures that existed back then. But this would be the gun emplacement, where 8 guns were placed on top of this hill early morning of September 11th.